What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Tate Talk Sports video. I know it's been a while. Obviously, been busy with school and other things like that, but I'm here with another video, and hopefully, we'll be making more in the coming weeks. So, what video do I make as a comeback? Well, obviously, if you've clicked on it, you know. But I thought it'd be fun to do a dream team video. Now, I also think it's a good idea because I can have other people come on and do their dream teams as well. So let me know if you guys would be interested in this as sort of a series. Now, I'm going to preface it all by saying that this isn't necessarily the greatest starting five of all time or the greatest players at each of their position of all time. This is just your dream team. At shooting guard, you could have Michael Jordan, or you could have Chris Paul, or you could have Dennis Schroeder. You could have literally anyone at any position. So that I think is the beauty of the dream team rather than kind of the greatest team. And so I think it'll make it really interesting if I have other people on to see who they put where. Because I think I have a couple curveballs on this team that people may not expect, as well as some players that people probably are expecting. So first position I'm going to get into is point guard. Now there's so many options for this position. Obviously, you've got the modern day Stephen Curry, you've got Bob Cousy, Isaiah Thomas, Chris Paul, all these players, but there's one name I haven't said, and you've probably guessed it already. And my point guard on my dream team is going to be Magic Johnson. Now, I'm going with Magic Johnson over the likes of Stephen Curry um, because of his size, playmaking, and leadership. I think he has the ability to be such a massive leader, such a massive presence and playmaking player on the court without dominating the attention, because I know that sounds funny because he loves the attention and he is flashy, but at the same time he just wants to work and he makes it look flashy, but he's getting the job done while he's doing it. So to me, he's the perfect point guard. He's got that 6'9" size. He can shoot the mid range, which is more than enough for this team. And his playmaking ability, all of it just wrapped together, I think makes him the greatest point guard of all time, and also the point guard on my dream team. So I'm going to be going a little bit out of order as far as the positions go, because now I'm going to be getting into center. Obviously, center has so many fantastic players, the likes of Shaquille O'Neal. You could play Dirk at center, David Robinson, not necessarily Karl Malone, but Moses Malone, just Kareem, all these massive players. But if you know me, you know the name that's coming next. My center on my dream team is, of course, Hakeem Olajuwon, because I mean, he's my favorite player of all time. If you know me, you know that. But the reason for that is his guard-like technique and footwork in a 7-foot frame playing center. He's just so skillful. His post moves are like poetry to watch. If you haven't watched highlights of him, I recommend you do. It is amazing to watch. You'll see nothing like him in today's game. He also brought the mid-range shot as a center. He could hit it more than consistently, and he was just such a leader and even more than perhaps all of that, a defensive presence. I believe until LeBron and Melo broke a few records recently, he was in the top 10 for points, rebounds, and blocks, and even steals. So he does everything, especially defense, and having that defensive rock. Akeem Olajuwon is arguably the best defensive center, if not player, in the history of the NBA. So having that guy at center who's going to be able to rebound, defend, and also you can give it to him in the post and he's going to get a bucket every time. I think that is such a valuable piece to this team. Obviously, we know Magic Johnson, my point guard, works well with centers because he's done it with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So we know this is a duo that can work real well. They're going to have good chemistry. They're going to play well together. So Akeem Olajuwon is my center. Now I'm going to be jumping to the middle of the pack with small forward. And this might be the most stacked position of all of them as far as options. You've got LeBron James, you've got Kevin Durant, you've got Scottie Pippen, so many options of stud players. But I think if you know me here as well, you know who I'm going to go with. He's a bit of a rival slash duo with one of my players I've already got, and at this point you probably know who he is, and it is of course Larry Bird is going to be my small forward. Now, why did I pick Larry Bird over the likes of LeBron and Kevin Durant? Well, I think one of the biggest factors was not needing to dominate the ball. I think Larry Bird does a great job of when he does have the ball, he can play make, he can shoot, he can do all those things. But at the same time, he can be off the ball and just defend or make the extra pass or obviously catch and shoot. He's probably going to be my best shooter on this team because he is one of the greatest shooters of all time. And I think he works really well in this team because, like I said, he doesn't need to dominate the ball. So he's not going to take away touches from Magic. But at the same time, he's going to work real well with Akeem at kind of moving around the mid post and helping get the ball to him and cutting off of him. And of course, his shooting. I think his shooting is really valuable to this team because I don't have a ton of shooting, just because I think the mid range and post game is kind of the focus of my team. But Bird obviously brings that shooting and forces the floor to be spaced because someone's going to have to cover him. But I think he fits really well with his team. He's not selfish, so he's gonna be able to work without the ball. Overall, I just thought it was a perfect fit, along with being probably my favorite small forward of all time. Now, the next position I'm going to get into is shooting guard. And, besides small forward, again, this is one of the more stacked positions, obviously, with two of the greatest players of all time, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, along with countless others, James Harden. You could play Allen Iverson at shooting guard. You could do all these things. But for me, now this is going to be a big curveball, and even if you know me, you're not going to know what I'm going to pick here. But I was looking for a player who's really going to be able to take a step back because I've got big players on the floor who are going to want the ball, and who are going to want to play around the ball, specifically Magic Johnson, Akeem, and Larry, of course. And then, so who can I pick at shooting guard who's going to bring some shooting because I need some more, but also going to be able to take a step back, and also be able to create his own bucket, because as much as I've got stellar players on this team, I don't necessarily have an ISO baller, because I've got Akeem who can work in the post, Larry who works really well off pick and rolls, of course Magic who works really well off pick and rolls, but not necessarily a shot creator. So who did I end up going with? Well, he's a Spurs man, and he invented a little something called the Euro step, and it is, of course, none other than Manu Ginobili. Now, this is a big curveball, and I understand that, but to me, we've seen how unselfish Ginobili is okay with being when he was on the Spurs, obviously taking the role of sixth man, coming off the bench and knowing how valuable he was off the bench, even though he was definitely a starter caliber player. He also has the ability to create his own shots. He was hitting step backs before James Harden. He's got the Euro step, obviously, like I mentioned. The mid-range game is stellar. I think he just brings everything. He finishes well. He passes well. He's just so all around great and great at creating shots. And yet at the same time, he has that very underrated ability to take a step back and not be the center of attention and just work with others. So to me, the pick here was Manu Ginobili. He just fits the team. He's going to be able to catch and shoot from Magic. He's going to be able to play off of Larry. He's going to be able to pass it into Akeem. And at the same time, if the other guys are cold and we need a bucket, give it to Manu and he's going to make one. I think it's just the perfect fit for this team. Obviously, you've got the likes of Michael Jordan and Kobe, but they're just going to be too ball dominant and wanting the ball too much, in such a team as this. So for me, the shooting guard had to be Manu. Now, the last player that I have left to talk about is the power forward. Now, of course, another stacked position with the likes of Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki, Anthony Davis, just countless massive options now. And I think I'm going to be reaching back in history for this player, because what do I need in my power forward? Well, if you look at my team, we've got decent shooting now with Larry and Manu, but we definitely need a bit more. So he's got to be able to at least hit some outside shots. But at the same time, I want to be getting some rebounds because, although this team is kind of overall bigger, not necessarily massive rebounders out there besides Akeem. And just a general player who's going to be able to score buckets around the perimeter as well as inside and grabbing a bunch of rebounds. And so I went with maybe an untraditional option, and an older player that people may know, people may not. But he is an old Knick, perhaps one of the most famous Knicks of all time, back in the glory days when they were winning championships and the Garden was Eden. And that player is none other than Jerry Lucas. Now, if you don't know the NBA and you don't know who Jerry Lucas is, Jerry Lucas was on the Knicks teams when they were winning championships with Willis Reed. And he's a really interesting character if you care to do research on him. He's Very interesting, interesting person. But as a player, what does Jerry Lucas bring? Well, he's one of the greatest rebounders of all time, in the top 10 rebounds of all time list. He's a great perimeter scorer. Obviously, they didn't. He maybe not necessarily a big 3-point shooter, but he shot a lot of deep mid range shots. So I think he would be able to adapt to at least the corner three in today's game. So he brings that perimeter scoring, and that's often where he got his points from, because the likes of Willis Reed was often in the paint instead of him. And then he just brings good size. He brings the rebounding. He brings the defense. And he brings the perimeter scoring. So he may not be like the obvious option, Dirk Nowitzki, or someone like Shaquille O'Neal, who you could play at power forward, or Tim Duncan, who gets the buckets as well. But he gets the perimeter points, and I think the key why I picked him over the likes of Dirk or Tim Duncan is because I've got Akeem and I've got Larry, both players who already like to play out of the post a decent amount, and even Manu or even Magic likes to play out of the post as well. So I've got players who are going to be wanting to play out of the post, especially Akeem. And so if I get someone like Dirk or I get someone like Tim Duncan, they're going to be wanting to do that as well, especially Tim Duncan. So if I've got two players who really play out of the post, it's going to crowd the paint, and it's going to make it harder for guys like Magic, who need to score in the paint, to get in there. It's also going to make it harder for everyone. It's going to be too crowded. But Jerry Lucas is someone who scored a lot of his paints from that mid post area, from the mid range. Didn't need to be a foot in the paint, but could still get a shot and make a bucket. So I think adding him is going to keep the spacing on the team. It's going to keep everything from getting too crowded. And he's going to bring the outside shots, going to space the floor, just make space for everyone. Magic's going to be able to play make inside. Akeem is going to be able to score inside. Everything is going to open up, and it'll make everything flow real nicely. So that is my power forward. So in summary, what is my dream team? At point guard, I've got Magic Johnson to bring the playmaking, bring the leadership. At shooting guard, I've got Manu Ginobili, a guy who can take a step back, play his role, but play his role to perfection, and create a shot when they need a shot. Larry Bird, who's going to space the floor and bring the shooting, as well as playmaking and just grit and grind to the team. Power forward, Jerry Lucas, a guy who's going to space the floor. He's not going to need to be in the paint to get buckets, but he's also going to get rebounds. Gonna play defense, just brings another element of grit and grind. And of course, lastly but not least, Akeem Olajuwon at center, a guy who's going to get a bucket whenever you need it from the post. He's going to get rebounds. He's going to be your defensive anchor. No one's scoring on him in the paint. So I think it rounds it out real nicely. So that is my NBA dream team starting five. Let me know what you guys think of it. If you thought I made any mistakes anywhere, or if you liked any of my picks, or if you would have picked someone different in a certain position, do let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you want to see more videos like this, and whose dream team you guys want to see, because I do think this can be a series, and I think it can be a fun one at that. So thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.